Welcome to the Fitness and Nutrition Simplified podcast, where we take all the confusing, conflicting information and break it down so that you can live your healthiest, strongest, most energized life. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons. Let's get it started. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Hope that the beginning of your week was awesome, and the second half of the week will be even better. This darn pop filter. There we go. So, I know it's been a couple of days for you guys, but for me, it's been about 10 minutes. Week 2 of doing the back-to-back. Feeling good. The streak has started. I guess for the intro, I'll just fill in stuff that I forgot that while I was out for my mid-episode walk, been doing like just 10-minute walks outside. It's nice and crisp out. It's kind of cold, so it's a little bit like hopping in a cold shower. You feel a little regenerized. Geez, I am making up words again. Rejuvenated, energized, but hell, we'll call it regenerized. So that walk was really, really good. Got to think about stuff that I might have forgot. And the one big one that I forgot was how I damn near had a heart attack behind the wheel. What was it, yesterday? For anybody that isn't familiar, Joe DeFranco, one of the most famous strength coaches in the entire world, he has the Industrial Strength Show podcast, which is a really, really good podcast, especially for the older guys or just meatheads in general, meathead male or females that like the good information. Highly suggest heading over his way. He had a guy on who is the strength coach for, I couldn't remember if he said the Jets or the Giants. I think it's for the New York Giants, the football team. And the guy's name is Coach Fitz. And I heard him say it and I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, I hope people accidentally search me up. So that was kind of cool just to hear him say it, but obviously he wasn't talking about me. But it really threw me for a loop because it's weird when you hear your name and you're not ready for it. It happened one time prior. I was at anybody in the New Jersey area, Coach Kevin Boyle, who used to coach the St. Patrick's School basketball team. And at the time, they were number one in the nation. They had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist playing there. They had a lot of big names at the time. And at his camp, I went to his camp for so many years because it was such a good camp. But he brought this guy, and he was a writer for the Star Ledger, and his name was Brian Fitzsimmons. So as he announced him, I was in the stands. I was like, he's not talking about me. But that heart attack feeling, you're like, what? But yeah, it's kind of cool and kind of scary and kind of dumb all at the same time. But I think that was the only big thing that I missed worth mentioning this past week that comes to mind. So let's just jump right in. Waste no time. I don't want to waste any of your guys' time listening to me blab on more than I have to. So the 3 topics this week are going to be 1, why calorie deficits don't work. 2, the mental shift towards mental benefit of exercise. And 3rd is how to drop 11 pounds in 10 days. Woohoo! Let's start with the calorie deficits and why they don't work. When I say this, I am not saying that calorie deficits don't work. It's not literal. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there are people out there that truly believe that calorie deficits don't work, when in their definition, there's no way that it won't work, because the whole definition of a calorie deficit is putting yourself in a position where you consume enough calories to result in losing body weight. So if you've been on a diet and you said, oh, calorie deficit didn't work for me, but keto did, it's like, okay, so keto put you in a calorie deficit and whatever you're doing prior to that didn't. That's pretty much all it is. But the reason that there's a lot of confusion around this is because when people do calorie deficits and like really track their not calorie deficits, when they start tracking calories to get themselves into a calorie deficit, they treat it like other diets. They treat it like those diets where you put in 5-6 days of good work and then you have your cheat meal or you have your cheat day, and that completely kicks you out of your calorie deficit, because a calorie deficit is not, I do this for 5 days and then I can treat myself. This is my budget for the week. It's like a bank account. The easiest way to explain this is like, imagine if in your bank account you gave yourself $200 to spend throughout the entire week. And if you stick to that 200 and then refill it on Monday, then you're fine. But doing that approach where you do your calorie deficit for 5-6 days out of the week and then you ball out and eat junk food on the 7th day, that would be like you having $200 and you spend all $200 in the Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, you go out to a dinner and now you're in the negatives. Now you have credit card debt. That credit card debt is like putting yourself or getting yourself out of the deficit. And if that credit card debt is high enough, then that would be that weight gain area. So yeah, we all go over on the credit card a little bit, like $20-$50, no biggie. Like that would be what we would consider maintenance. But let's say you went out and you bought or you went to a dinner that was $1,000. You're going to be feeling that for a while. That's going to be hurting. That would be like going to the Outback and getting a bloomin' onion burger, and all of a sudden that's an extra 2,000 calories, which now not only is kicking you out of the deficit, now you're not even in maintenance. Now you might even gain weight depending on the total amount of calories and the extremeness of your deficit. So that is the big one, is that the cheat days, cheat meals, they can very easily kick you out of your calorie deficit. And that's not the deficit's fault. That's yours. The other thing is bad measuring. Measuring food is a skill. It takes some practice. It takes time to learn it, because there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many ways that you can mess up. Prime example of this is when I was in college, I needed, what was it? It was like 100 grams of, I measured it in cooked rice. So 100 grams of cooked rice, but I accidentally put 100 grams of uncooked rice in the rice cooker, and now I had about 400 or 500 grams of carbs on the plate, or grams of rice on the plate, and I'm going to town, and my buddy is like, aren't you trying to diet? And I'm like, well, yeah, this is what it gave me. And they're like, I think you messed up the measurement. And then I went back and checked, and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. So stuff like that happens. Or like the whole, in that same kind of situation, raw versus cooked. Like if you have 8 ounces of raw chicken, that's going to cook down to like 6 ounces of cooked chicken. But if you say you're going to eat 8 ounces of raw chicken, but you actually measure 8 ounces of cooked chicken, that cooked chicken was probably about 10 or 11 ounces before you cooked it. So those are all extra calories that you're not accounting for. And doing that over time, and even if it's not chicken, whatever it is, like when things cook down and you're missing all those calories, that adds up. And that could easily, because if you're doing a 500 calorie deficit every day to get you to that like ideal 1 pound of weight loss per week, that could easily be 500 calories in a day. Easily, especially if it's like a fat source, boom, that could knock you right out real fast. And that could be a reason why the calorie deficit doesn't work. And another thing, now that we're onto the topic of fats, is not counting them. So not counting things like butter or oil or other things, like not counting vegetables. Like say you have, if you have like a little bit of veggies like in your omelet or on the side for dinner, I don't even count those. But if you're the type of person that goes to town, like you can't not be hungry unless you eat tons of vegetables. If you are that type of person, that's a lot of calories. Like that could be an extra 100, 200, 300 calories potentially. That can very well kick you out of that calorie deficit. But yeah, with the fats, like even though you're not, when you cook things, the oil or the butter evaporates. You don't get all of it. You still get some of it. And if you are from the Italian heritage, such as myself, you really got to pay attention to the amount of olive oil that you use, because I have witnessed my own family do it. I know I've talked to clients about this. I'm like, when they tell me, yeah, I do a little bit of olive oil, I throw some salt and pepper on it. I'm like, okay, one sec. So when you say you put a little olive oil on it, is that like you do a little spritz or like a little bit of spray over the top or like a tablespoon, or do you do the Italian drizzle? And for those of you that don't know what the Italian drizzle is, it's basically you do like a 3 count when you're putting the olive oil across like the sheet of something or whatever. You just go 1, 2, 3, and I think that covered everything. And then when you actually measure it out, it's like 3, 4, 5 tablespoons of olive oil, which, just to put it in perspective, let me look it up here. We got, so olive oil, one of them, olive oil, 1 tablespoon of that is 122 calories, because it's 13.5 grams of fat. Now multiply that by 4 or 5 and tell me if right there, that's times 5, that would be 600 calories. And there goes your deficit right there. Bye-bye. So it's little things like this that add up. And if you're doing just one of these, it could throw you off. There's a lot of people making multiple of this mistake. Or sometimes it could be a difference of like fluid ounces to regular ounces, or just not zeroing out the scale ahead of time and doing it that way. Or I don't know, there's a bunch of different things that can go wrong, and it's a learning process. It is. I still haven't perfected it because sometimes I do catch myself messing up. It happens. But at the end of the day, just like any other diet, you got to stick with it. You got to find where you can improve. You got to learn, and you stay consistent, stay patient, and persevere through it. You'll get there. It's just a learning process. But don't blame the method. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. The method should serve you. That's why all diets work. It's the people that mess up diets. Next is mental shift towards mental benefit of exercise. The reason I bring this up is because when we talk exercise, a lot of times it's a singular focus. It's, I just want to lose weight, or I want to feel better in my clothes, or I want to do this, I want to do that, where it's like a very measurable thing. But we're going to go in the other direction and talk about the mental benefit of exercise, because when it comes to, the more I'm learning this, and it's not even the mental benefit, it's just the overall benefit. I'm starting to realize, because now I'm in my last year of my 20s, and I'm starting to see my peers, the way that their health has been affected, especially with COVID speeding things up, and just how, like, I'm starting to notice people like putting on a serious amount of weight, or like they just don't look like they're healthy, or they have reached out to me and said, oh, I really need some help. And I'm starting to realize that back in the day, it was nice, like being a teenager, early 20s, and every time you walked into the gym, it was like, this is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. And I'm going to get a good pump. I'm going to feel like I'm so swole. It's going to be awesome. And I looked forward to every single workout, and almost every single workout felt really, really good. But now, not the same. The workouts are like, you got to almost get them done against your will. Like, I feel like I'm dragging myself to the gym. But in the past, I'd be drained. I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't be able to sit down on the toilet. But now, with adjusted expectations, adjusted programming, I leave the gym feeling better. So it's like, instead of going to the gym for, I'm trying to lose 5 pounds or whatever, I'm trying to like drop some inches, it turned into, I need to go to the gym to feel better, just to get me through the day. And it's a weird mental shift, and it's something that a lot of people are not that aware of if they've been on a break from health and fitness, or they haven't ever experienced that feeling of that after the workout effect of this release of anxiety, of stress, of angst. And on top of that, like if you feel like you're dragging through the day, it really just kind of wakes you up. I remember when I would train people at like 6 a.m, I would look at them and ask them, why the hell are you here so early? And I remember one of the guys, G, to this day, one of my favorite people that I ever trained, he's like, I need this to get through the day. I really just need this mentally. And I'm like, huh. So you're telling me that you're not trying to get absolutely yoked and not trying to like get super duper strong? He's like, oh, no. Let's be real. I want those results. But what gets me here is the fact that I need this. Like I need to get it in. I need to get my mind right to get through the day, because he was in charge of a big team at his company and in charge of managing a lot of people. There were people that were like some stressors, some good people in there. It was a mix. And he's like, to keep everything straight, I got to work out. Just got to work out. And I'm like, hey, whatever gets the job done. And as a 20-something, like we would have these conversations until I left around last August. But when I was like 24, 25, having these conversations with him, I'm like, oh, I'd say like nod my head like, yeah, great. And in the back of my head, I'd be like, I don't get it. But now feeling that feeling of you got to get work done. You got to deal with the rest of whatever is going on in the day. It's like the workout's the last thing on your mind, but you got to get it done, because when you focus on the after effect, it can get you there to make sure you get the job done. Even if you don't feel like it, just getting there, moving, it helps. That's why mentally for myself, I'll tell myself, all right, I'll go in. I just need to do a little bit of walking on the treadmill and I'll do the first exercise. If I'm not feeling it, I'll cut it off like halfway. I'll just do bare minimum of what I got to do, and then I'll get in, get out. I'll come back to fight another day. And without fail, I get to that point where I was like, all right, I'll just stop at this point. And I'm like, well, I put in this much work. I might as well finish the workout. And sometimes that's the mental game you got to play with yourself. Like, what's the bare minimum you can do? And just do it. Just do it. Because by the time you finish that bare minimum, you're going to realize, oh, I got a little more left in the tank. Or on the other end, you could be like, yeah, this is not happening today. It's just not going to work. So I'll just call it here, and I still got some work in. Way better than sitting at home being like, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not going to do this. Because now you've put in, say you got like quote unquote shitty workouts in, and you did a month or 2 months of those shitty workouts. That's still 2 months of work that would not have been done if you sat on your ass and stayed at home. And you could potentially make progress doing that. Even though they're not the greatest workouts in the world, they're still workouts. They're still getting done. So, yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing, is focusing on the benefits, focusing on what you want to feel like when you're done. And it'll get you there more times than not. Believe you me, it will. And last topic of the day is dropping 11 pounds in 10 days. If that got you excited, that's a problem. That's a mental thing that a lot of us have to get over, is this quick hit of results, this fast approach, these biggest loser numbers. Because if you're losing 11 pounds in 10 days or 30 pounds in 30 days, whatever, if you're losing weight that fast, that is a gigantic red flag. That's like a red flag the size of those American flags you see at Autoland, or these car dealerships that have like the 100-foot flags. That is the level of a red flag that losing that weight that fast is, because it's not a maybe, it's a guarantee that you're going to gain that weight back. It's a guarantee that you're going to gain more weight back, because your metabolism is going to plummet. Because in the short term, yeah, you're going to lose this weight. It probably won't have a huge effect on your metabolism, like really short term, maybe like a month at the most, I would think. But when you lose that 11 pounds, don't kid yourself. That's not 11 pounds of fat. It's just not. The way that your body works, when you're trying to burn body fat, the upper end is give or take maybe 1% of your body weight per week. So if you're 200 pounds, that's 2 pounds a week. And if you're just starting out, this could be more, because when you first start exercising, first start really paying attention to nutrition, your body has this recomposition effect and you burn a lot of fat and gain muscle at the same time. But once you get past that point, and even then, you're only going to see you on the scale, like when that recomp happens, a lot of times you don't lose any weight at all because you're putting muscle on at the same rate you're burning fat. So again, you shouldn't be seeing these crazy results, because if you're losing that 10 pounds in 10 days, you can guarantee that you're not getting all the benefit of gaining the lean defined muscle, and you're not getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to workouts and all the benefits that come with it. You're getting a really half-assed starvation approach. You see this a lot in like last week, I talked about weight loss clinics. They'll give you like 500 calories and then you'll come back, like they'll give you 500 calories a day and you'll come back and be like, this is amazing. It's working so well. And they're like, oh yeah, great. Or you got that guy like Dr. Now, like, oh, that's great. You're doing really well. And you feel good about yourself. And then after a month, 2 months, 3 months, you're like, I can't live like this anymore. And what happens? Hop off the diet, it comes right back. And now when it comes back, your metabolism is at a much lower rate, because when you take in less calories, your metabolism will reflect that. So it's a what they call starvation mode. The whole premise of that is what I'm talking about, because even though starvation mode is not a thing acutely, like it's not something that happens really, really fast, but it is a thing that when you take in less calories, your metabolism will slow down, because if it stays at an elevated rate and you're not eating enough, your chances for starving, like if your body's going based off of like primal patterns back in the day when you would eat one meal and then go 3 days without it, if that metabolism was at an elevated level while you were going that 3 days without food, you'd starve really fast. It would happen and you'd wither away. So to account for that, our bodies as a survival mechanism will drop the metabolic rate down. So when you do go into a calorie deficit, you want to do as little of a deficit as possible to mitigate that effect, because the lower you go, the faster your metabolism drops. So that's why when you hear people say, oh, you got to pick a modest calorie deficit, it's for that reason, because you can only go so low. Once you get underneath, because this is how I know weight loss clinics are absolute bullshit and should be illegal. When you get below your basal metabolic rate, which is the base level of calories that you need to function as a human. So if I like knocked you out and you laid back on the bed, what you would burn just by laying on the bed, knocked unconscious, that's your basal metabolic rate. When you're eating less than that, that is not good. That is not a good thing to do consistently. Now, if you have a day or two where it's like you do a fast or something like that, not a big deal. But if you're consistently doing that for weeks and months on end, that can have terrible health consequences. Like that can result in a lot of bad things. So and for a lot of people, this is somewhere around, if you're say a woman at 150 pounds, that could be something like 1,300 or 1,400 calories. If you're getting a 500 calorie diet from a quack doctor that probably didn't even pass medical school or couldn't get hired by a hospital, then yeah, that is not going to have great results. So that being said, what was I even talking about? The 11 pounds in 10 days. 11 pounds in 10 days should tell you right then and there, this is not the right approach. It's too low, it's too fast, and it's going to come right back, because the only weight that stays off is the one that comes off slowly, because that allows your body to acclimate to where it's at. It's not being rushed. It can do its thing. It can perform its regular functions, and it will result in you feeling good. Because if you're losing that 10 pounds in 10 days, that good feeling that you have is probably only going to last for that week. You're going to feel like a zombie really freaking fast, and you're probably going to feel starving. And if you do feel starving right from the start of your diet, it's not for you. It's not the right one, or it needs to be adjusted, because if you're really starving and you can't, then you need to include protein or fiber or some healthy fats. And if you don't have enough calories to do that, then it's a setup for failure. It really is. And yeah, before I go off the deep end on that, do not drop super duper low in calories, and never go below your basal metabolic rate. Because if you do have to, just to lose weight, you're doing something wrong, or you might need a reverse diet. And for that, check out coachfits.com on how to reverse diet, because it is a real thing for some people. Some people do have to bring their metabolic rate up because of so many years of yo-yo dieting and doing this over and over again, losing 10 pounds in 10 days, falling off, feeling terrible about themselves, then jumping back on saying, I'm going to do it this time, and blaming themselves instead of blaming the diet. So yeah, I'll call it there. Damn, this one ended kind of on a negative note too. Damn, I was really trying to end it on a positive note. I will. I'm not giving up on this segment. So all of that being said, take your health into your own hands. Go and check out, I'm going to put it in the show notes. We'll do tdeecalculator.net. We'll give you a good idea of what your calories should be. Then once you get those calories that you should be eating for weight loss or whatever you're trying to do, give it a try. And like we talked about the weigh-ins in, was that this one or last one? Yeah, that was the last episode. When we talked about weigh-ins in the last episode, follow those guidelines. Follow the daily weigh-ins or the monthly weigh-ins or measurements or stuff like that, and see how it goes. And then if you're losing weight at that 1% mark, where it's 1% of your body weight, and that's the high end. So even if you're only losing, say, half a pound a week, so half a pound to pound and a half or 2 pounds a week, that is progress. That's sustainable. That's what's going to get you the results. And then it's a question of patience, because if it's working and you're not happy, that's a patience problem. And in that case, you got to adjust your expectations. You got to really buckle down and say, do you want to do this? And then you have the power. Then you have, the ball is in your court, not some quack doctor or some BS Facebook diet or something you saw in Vogue magazine that doesn't give a shit about you. What really works, what will put you in the best position possible, is taking ownership, taking control of your health. So go ahead, check out the calories that you need to get with that TDEE calculator. Give it a run, see what happens, and then adjust accordingly. And all should go well. And if you need help, reach out. Find a coach, like a personal trainer in person, or you can reach out to me if you need someone to show you the way. That's why I created the Fit 40 for women, but Fit 40 for men too also. That's what the whole damn program is about, teaching you the way. So if you want more info on that, just email me, coachfits with 2 Z's, number 1, just the number 1 at gmail.com. I'll put that in the show notes too. And just say, I need help, and I'll be glad to. All right, that was a much better ending. All right, let's cap it right there. Until next time, hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Go kick some ass, and I'll see you on Monday. Thank you so much for listening in. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a 5-star review, and make sure to go hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss another episode of the Fitness and Nutrition Simplified podcast.